I stared at the invitation lying on my kitchen table, the glossy card mocking me in its silence. My name wasn't on it. Not anywhere. The wedding of my son Mark was scheduled for late spring, and yet the woman he had chosen to marry, Melissa, had sent out the invitations without so much as a mention of me. I felt my chest tighten, an ache that twisted deep inside. How could she exclude me from this moment, from my own son's wedding? A few days earlier, I had been excitedly helping Mark and Melissa plan the wedding. I pored over floral arrangements with them, offered my grandmother's antique lace to be used in the veil, and even cooked meals for the couple during their busy days. I had imagined standing beside Mark as he took those vows, a proud mother witnessing her son's happiness. But now that image was shattered, replaced by a cold, humiliating reality. It was a mutual friend, Linda, who had unintentionally shattered my peace. Over coffee, she mentioned how lovely the invitations were, and casually asked if I had received mine yet. I shook my head, and that's when she glanced down at the card in her hand and realized what she'd said. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think you knew." Melissa said it was a very small ceremony, very private. Her eyes avoided mine, but the damage was done. I spent that night scrolling through my phone, hoping for some message, some call, anything from Mark. But nothing came. Just silence. The exclusion felt deliberate, like a bitter wedge driven between me and my son. I remembered the times we talked about the wedding months ago, how Mark had assured me I'd be a central part of the day. Now those promises felt hollow. Memories flooded in. Mark as a boy, shy but determined, often seeking comfort in my arms. The late nights we spent planning his college applications, the small victories and setbacks we celebrated and mourned together. He had always been my heart, my joy. And Melissa had been part of our lives for 2 years, at first warm and inviting, then increasingly distant. Our relationship had always been polite, but recently I'd sensed a shift. Melissa's smiles became tighter, her words clipped. She told me with a forced calm that she wanted a fresh start with Mark, free from old family drama. I had shrugged it off, thinking she was just nervous about the wedding. But now I realized it was more than that. She was intentionally sidelining me. The invitations were just the start. I learned through whispered conversations with other family members that Melissa had been quietly rewriting the narrative of our family, painting me as overbearing and too involved. I was stunned. The woman my son loved was turning others against me with lies, and Mark was caught somewhere in the middle, unsure of which side to take. I felt humiliated, betrayed by the very people I had welcomed into my life and home. The house I had opened to Melissa when she first moved in with Mark now felt like a battlefield. I remembered the late nights I stayed up worrying if I was doing enough, if I was being a good mother-in-law. Yet here I was erased. My heart ached, but beneath the pain a fire ignited. I refused to be pushed out, to be treated like an outsider in my own family. My voice mattered. My bond with Mark was not something anyone could rewrite or erase. I decided then that I would confront this exclusion head-on. The next day I called Mark, hoping to reach him before the invitations went out to anyone else. When he answered, his tone was tired but warm. "Mom, how are you?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "Mark, I need to talk to you about the wedding invitations." There was a pause. "What about them?" "I heard from Linda that the invitations were sent out, but my name isn't on the list." Mark's silence was deafening. "Mom, Melissa and I are keeping it very small. It's just close family and a few friends." "But I'm your mother," I said, voice trembling but firm. "How can I not be included?" "I know, Mom, but Melissa and I agreed that we want to keep the day simple, without any old family tensions." "Old family tensions?" I repeated, disbelief coloring my words. "What tensions? I've done nothing but support both of you." "I'm sorry, Mom. It's complicated," he said, and then he hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, feeling abandoned. How had things gotten so twisted? I thought of the countless hours I had spent helping with the wedding, the advice I had given, the emotional support I had provided. And now it was as if none of it mattered. That afternoon I reached out to Melissa directly, sending a message that was calm but clear. I told her I wanted to understand why I had been excluded, and expressed my hope that we could find a way to come together for Mark and the wedding. But the reply I received was curt, dismissive. She spoke of new family boundaries and a desire to start fresh. implying that my presence would complicate things. I felt a cold wave of anger and sadness wash over me. This was not just about an invitation. It was about respect, recognition, and the place I held in my son's life. Melissa's actions were telling me I wasn't welcome, that my years of love and sacrifice didn't count. Yet, despite the hurt, I couldn't give up. I knew Mark was torn, caught between his fiancée and his mother. I needed to find a way to reach him, to remind him of the unbreakable bond we shared. I thought about talking to other family members, hoping for support, for someone who saw beyond Melissa's version of events. As I prepared myself for what felt like an uphill battle, I realized this was bigger than a wedding invitation. It was about standing up for my place in my son's life, refusing to be erased by fear or insecurity. I was ready to fight for the love and respect I deserved, no matter the cost. I confronted Melissa in person the next time I saw her at Mark's parents' gathering. The air between us was thick with tension, a fragile silence waiting to be shattered. I looked her straight in the eye and asked, "Why did you exclude me from the wedding invitations?" "I deserved to know." She shrugged, her lips pressed into a thin line. "It's about boundaries, Mom. Mark and I agreed this wedding is a fresh start. We want to keep it simple, without old family drama." "Old family drama?" I bit back the words that threatened to spill out. How could she twist our years of love and support into something so ugly? "What drama?" I asked softly, trying to keep the hurt from my voice. "I've only ever tried to support you both." Melissa's gaze hardened. "It's not about you, really. It's about the future. Mark and I want to build our own family without distractions." I felt a cold weight settle in my chest. It was clear she was pushing me away, not because of anything I did, but because of what I represented, a past she wanted to erase. I wanted to say more, to argue, but I knew this was only the beginning. Over the next few days, whispers began to reach me like daggers. Family members who once greeted me warmly now looked away, their eyes clouded with doubt. I heard that Melissa had been spreading stories about me behind my back, painting me as controlling, difficult, someone who couldn't let go. It was a cruel twist on the truth, and it stung worse than any direct insult. I confronted Mark about the rumors during a rare phone call. "I hear Melissa's telling people I'm a problem," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He sighed heavily. "Mom, it's complicated. Melissa's anxious about the wedding. She's trying to protect us. I don't want to get in the middle." "But this isn't protection," I said, frustration bubbling up. "It's alienation. I'm your mother. I should be part of this, not some obstacle." Mark's silence was my answer. I could hear the conflict in his breathing, the hesitation. He cared for both of us, but he was caught in a painful tug-of-war, unsure which side to choose. In the midst of this, a ray of hope appeared. Mark's sister, Paula, reached out to me quietly one evening. "I know what Melissa's doing isn't right," she whispered during a phone call. "I've seen the invitation list, and you're definitely missing. But I have proof of her exclusion, and I want to help." I felt relief flood through me. Paula was someone I could trust, someone who saw through the lies and recognized the truth of our family's bonds. Together, we began piecing together the puzzle, gathering messages, invitations, and whispered conversations that revealed Melissa's deliberate plans. Paula shared with me the conversations she overheard at family gatherings where Melissa disparaged me, casting me as a threat to her role as the new matriarch. "She's scared, Mom," Paula said gently. "Scared you'll overshadow her, that you'll take away the attention she craves on her big day." That hit me hard. It wasn't just spite or cruelty, it was insecurity. Melissa feared losing control, losing her place in Mark's life. Her exclusion of me was a desperate attempt to control the narrative, to rewrite the story of the family in a way that centered on her. Still, the pain lingered. To know that my love and support were seen as obstacles was heartbreaking. But understanding her motives gave me a different perspective. This wasn't a personal vendetta. It was a struggle for respect and recognition, a battle for the heart of a family caught in change. I told Paula that I wanted to confront Melissa and Mark together, to lay everything out in the open. Paula agreed, promising to stand by me and back me up. "We'll make sure the truth comes out," she said, her voice steady. In the meantime, I reached out to a few other family members quietly, gauging their feelings. Many were sympathetic but hesitant to intervene. The tension Melissa had sown was strong, like a shadow over the family. But a few whispered words of encouragement kept me going. I spent long nights reflecting on what this meant. I had always believed that family was a refuge, a place of unconditional love. Now I saw that sometimes family could fracture under pressure, that love could be twisted by fear and insecurity. Yet, I refused to let this fracture define us. I needed to stand firm to reclaim my place, not just for myself but for Mark. I was reminded of all the moments we had shared, his first steps, his triumphs and failures, the countless times I had been there for him. No invitation or exclusion could erase those bonds. As the wedding day approached, the weight of the conflict pressed heavier on my shoulders. I knew confrontation was inevitable, but I also felt a growing strength inside me, fueled by the support of Paula and the truth we had uncovered. I was ready to face Melissa, to face Mark, and to fight for the respect and inclusion I deserved. This wasn't just about a wedding or an invitation. It was about family, identity, and the right to be seen and loved for who I was. And I would not back down. The day of the family meeting arrived, and as I sat across from Melissa and Mark at the dining room table, a storm of emotions churned inside me. Anger, sadness, and a fierce determination. Paula was by my side, her steady gaze giving me strength. I wasn't here to argue or cry. I was here to reclaim my place. I looked first at Melissa, who avoided my eyes, her hands fidgeting nervously. Then at Mark, whose face was a mixture of discomfort and guilt. "I've gathered all the facts," I began, my voice calm but resolute. "Melissa, you excluded me from the wedding invitations. You spread false stories about me to our family. This wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. It was deliberate. And it needs to stop." Melissa's lips trembled, but she said nothing. Mark shifted in his seat, his eyes darting between us. I continued, "Mark, you need to know the truth. I've always loved you and supported you. No one, not even the woman you're marrying, has the right to erase your mother from your life." Mark's expression softened, but he still looked uncertain. I pressed on. "Melissa's actions come from fear of losing control, fear that I'll overshadow her. But this isn't about competition. It's about family and respect." There was a long silence, broken finally by Melissa's voice, quiet and raw. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I've never felt like I belonged. I thought if I pushed you away, I could create a space where Mark and I could be our own family. But maybe I was wrong." Mark reached out and took her hand, then looked at me. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't see how much this hurt you. I was caught between you both and didn't know how to make it right." I felt tears prick my eyes, but I held them back. "Mark, you don't have to choose. You have a mother who loves you, and a fiancé who should respect that. Melissa, you can be part of our family, but it has to be together." Melissa nodded slowly. "I want that too. I'm sorry for excluding you. I want us all to be part of this day." With that, the tension in the room began to ease. Paula smiled softly, and I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The power dynamic had shifted, not through confrontation alone, but through honesty and acknowledgement. In the days that followed, Melissa reached out to me with genuine gestures of inclusion. She invited me to participate in the final wedding planning meetings and asked for my input on the ceremony details. Mark made it clear to family and friends that his mother was an essential part of his life, restoring a sense of respect that had been missing. At the wedding, I stood beside Mark, my heart full. Watching him exchange vows with Melissa, I felt a quiet pride, not just in the couple, but in the family we had reclaimed through honesty and courage. The journey had been painful, but it taught me that standing firm against exclusion is necessary, even when it's painful. Family isn't perfect and sometimes it fractures under pressure. But with resilience and grace, those fractures can heal. As I looked around at the gathered family smiling and united, I knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where love, respect, and inclusion would guide us forward.